Welcome to another episode of Feature Flashback.
Woo!
What a weekend. What a weekend it is. This is the show where every week we flashback 10 years to look at the films that came out in the cinema. I'm Colin Spalton, and with me as always...
I'm Jacob Sanger.
Yes, he is. Yes, he is.
For better or worse.
So this is an interesting weekend. I was excited for this one. It's a good double feature, I'd say.
Oh yeah, I was gonna not to, reveal too much, peek behind the kimono, but last week I was like, oh brother, but this week was a slobber knocker. I loved both these movies.
Yeah, it's definitely nice after last week was a little rough on us.
Yeah.
Well, I want to ask you, because I know you saw a film last night that I'm
did.
Very curious to hear about.
So yes, speaking of the box office this weekend, I saw an incredible film last night. Let me turn down my gain a little. I'm getting excited. So, last night I saw Hindi language film RRR, or I don't know if people are calling it like triple R or what. I feel like it should have some kind of catchy name, but it stands for Rise, Roar, Revolt, and it's incredible. 5 stars on Letterboxd. It's like, I haven't really seen any Indian movies before. Like, I'm trying to think. I feel like I saw one at Fantastic Fest that I'm forgetting the name now, but it was described as a landlocked Jaws. This was about this this ox that was on the loose that they were trying to catch. God. And like the premise was really cool, but I remember it being kind of boring. But also I had like festival fatigue and I was very tired. But anyway, this movie, sorry Best Exotic Marigold Hotel, you are no longer the best movie taking place in India I've seen. This movie was insane. Like I saw a review of it that was like every scene you're thinking, this is as big as it gets. How are they going to top this? And then they do in the next scene, and it's true.
My God.
It's wild because on one hand it's so like over the top that sometimes you're like, am I supposed to be taking this seriously? But at the same time, like a lot of the emotion is very real, and especially like the central like relationship is very sweet, and like you really care about these characters, and it's this like epic story. I don't want to give too much away because I went in like not knowing anything. I just knew it was supposed to be a crazy action movie. It was 3 hours long, and there is at least I got to see it at the Draft House, which was really cool. If y'all are able to see it at home in a theater, I highly recommend it. But it is streaming on Netflix right now. But it was such a fun theater experience because like crazy shit would happen, and then we were all laughing and clapping, and like people like cheered at the end of the movie. I was like, it's been so long since I've been in a movie where people were like this excited. And like I think maybe the last time this wasn't actually that long ago, but it wasn't like a new release, but I went to a screening of Pedicab Driver, which is a Hong Kong action movie from the 80s, and it actually is very similar to this movie where it's like it's got drama, comedy, romance, action, and it flip-flops between them all like pretty effortlessly, but it's like half the length of this movie. So this movie was able to do a really cool thing where like you kind of spend the first half with one character, and you're like, oh man, like I'm like, I don't know what they could do like this, you're like, I got the story down pat, I know what's going on. And I'm being vague on purpose, but then like there's an intermission, which like they actually did an intermission at the Draft House. Like they put on like commercials and were like, okay, go pee, go get some snacks.
That's nice.
But I like was too scared to miss anything. I just stayed in my seat the whole time, which actually was smart because then this thing came up that was like now returning to the movie, and I was like, is this real? But then it just began, and a lot of the people like next to me hadn't gotten back yet, so I was like, okay, I'm glad I didn't go to the bathroom because it immediately just like kicks in. Also, it was funny because this thing come up. The whole movie has this insane font. It's like golden with like all these like spikes on it, and that came up and said interval, but it had 3 R's in the middle. So it's like interval. and it's insane. Like it makes me want to. I don't know if other Indian movies are like this, but I'm like, I need to watch more because it was also a musical at times. I was like,
it is funny. I've seen like 3 Indian films. I feel like, at least because I think 2. I've seen Lagan, which is like probably one of the most famous ones, also known as Once Upon a Time in India.
Oh, yeah, my sister loves that movie. I need to watch it.
That one and 3 Idiots, and both of those I did not expect them to be musicals at all, and then all of a sudden they just start singing. So I get that's just an interesting feature. It does feel like, because it had been on my radar just because I knew like that it did really well, but then I don't know if you know Patrick Willems he is on YouTube.
I don't think so.
He did a video all about RRR and breaking down why it's the greatest movie ever. And also broke down some interesting stuff about just like where it stands like culturally in India. Because the thing that I was so interested in, because I believe it's like the 2 main actors are like the 2 biggest stars like in India.
Oh, see, I was wondering because they like they just had something about them that felt like movie star. I was like, and also they're like the 2 most handsome men on earth, and, and I was like, what is happening? I was like, America needs to take notes. We don't have any movie stars anymore. Well, that's not true.
Yeah, that's well, I mean that is true. We don't really have stars like that anymore.
Yeah.
But and also it's like the biggest director in India, and the way they announced the movie, because I think all of their names start with R. So they just announced the movie that they were working together as like RRR, and so then they reworked a title out of that.
That makes total sense because I think their names are like Rama, and then like the director's name is like S.S. Rajamouli or something. And I also thought I think I may be getting this wrong. I can look it up, but I think one of the actors' name is Rama, but then the other character's name is Rama. So, like,
incredible.
Let me look it up real quick.
Have you seen the videos though of like screenings of that in India? Oh my god, I need to sub to you because they like. I always get annoyed when people are like, because I remember there were people complaining like when The Force Awakens came out or like an Endgame, like Jesus Christ, shut up! Like you don't need to clap in a movie and stuff like that. And then there's these videos out of India, and it's literally like confetti falling from the ceiling. It feels like a sports event.
Oh my god!
Like it feels like you're at the Super Bowl. Like I saw one, I think it was from France. I think it was like a majorly like an Indian community kind of part of France, and they literally had like sparks shooting next to the screen, like as like a certain part of the movie, and people are like losing their goddamn mind. And I think there was like a certain like dance number where then like everyone in the audience, like, because I think they had posted some big deal like of the dance, it's like the 2 of them like dancing together, like the 2 actors, and then everyone started doing that in the aisles of the theater.
No, I was moved. Like I felt such a kinship with the 2 guys next to me. I didn't know them at all, but we were both like leaning forward in our chairs as like crazy shit was happening and like tapping our feet and bobbing our heads. I was like, this movie goes so hard, and like I don't even like I like to think I'm a fairly worldly fellow. I watch a lot of foreign films, but I just have missed out on Indian films, I guess. And I was like, if they're like this, oh my god, because like I was literally like, I wanted to dance, I wanted to clap. That's another reason it was like Petty Cab Driver, because that, even though it's a movie from like 85 or whatever, Sammo Hung would like launch someone through a coffee table, and the audience was like, yeah.
That's incredible.
But
I kind of regret now. I feel like, because I think they said there was going to be like a one-night return of RRR in America, but I think it did so well that they're doing more. And so they're like, if it keeps doing well, they're just going to keep doing it.
Yeah, I hope so, because I've been like, I asked my roommates if they wanted to go with me, but like the I hadn't bought my ticket yet, and it was filling up, so I was like, a few hours later, I was like, guys, I need to know, and they were like, nah, and I was like, okay, so I got my ticket, and now I wish I would have like made them come with me, because I was like, I feel like it would have been so much fun to walk out of the theater and be like, oh my god, but I'm definitely gonna
Yeah.
make them watch it on Netflix with me.
Good. Invite me. I'll watch it too.
Oh hell yeah!
But yeah, I saw a new movie 2 days ago. I saw Men,
Oh yeah, I want to see
the
that.
new Alex Garland movie, and it was disappointing. It was
Aw,
not very good.
damn.
It's so interesting because it feels so, compared to Annihilation and Ex Machina, it feels mean to say, but it feels very amateurish.
Oh,
Just in terms of like, I think in terms of the story and in terms of some of the filmmaking, it feels like every choice is kind of the obvious choice. I don't know. There's some really interesting imagery, especially at the end. There's one specific thing that I did not think I would see that a character does, and then it's a cycle and happens like 5 more times, and it was, oh my god, it was so disgusting.
yeah. Well, that's what my brother works at the Draft House as a runner, and so he said that he came in
Like Gallipoli.
Yeah, yeah, literally. Which, by the way, sorry, side note, but I'm pretty sure the director of Gallipoli is the director of Master and Commander.
Yeah, it's Peter Weir.
Yeah, and I was like, my man does not miss.
Yeah, he did the Truman Show. He's done so much.
Yeah, well,
I'm a big fan of Peter Weir.
I've never seen Truman Show actually. Maybe I should
It's
watch
so
it.
good. Watch the Truman Show and watch the Mosquito Coast. That one Harrison Ford has said that is his favorite performance he has ever given.
Mosquito Coast.
Yeah, that was really good.
I must add it to my Letterboxd watch list right this moment. Mosquito. What was I talking about before?
Your brother works at the Draft House. He's a runner.
He said he came in at the end of a screening of Men, and he was like, I don't know the context at all, but it gave me the willies. He was alarmed at what he saw.
I would be too.
So
Yeah,
I kind of want to see it just for that.
Yeah, I'd say I went to see it just because I have like I have the Regal Unlimited deal right now. Like I just got a 3-month deal just for the summer, and it was I just bought my ticket at the theater at it was like a noon showing on a Tuesday, and the guy at the counter is like, theater's yours. Like it was completely empty, and I was late, and I get there, I sit in the middle, and right as the movie's starting, and I'm like, all right, this is a man screening of Men. And then one other older guy walked in 2 minutes into the movie.
That's it.
So it was me and him.
I don't know if I've told this story on the show. I don't think so, but stop me if I have. But when 1917 came out, I saw it pretty early on with a packed house, and it was awesome. And then a couple weeks later, I saw it on a weekday in the middle of the day. And I think it either came out at the end of summer or the end of Christmas break or something.
It was Christmas.
Yeah,
because Oscar season.
Because I remember everyone was back at work or school, but because I'm a hedonist college student, didn't have to do anything, and so I bought my ticket to see 1917 in the middle of the day. I was like, I want to see it again. Completely empty audience, and I was like, this is gonna be so cool, this huge movie, huge screen. And then when I get there, there's this 40-year-old businessman sitting right next to me, and I was like
the exact seat
yes.
next to you.
And I was like, there was a whole theater, why did you choose the seat right next to me? And I was curious, and I wanted to ask him, but I didn't want to be rude, so I was like, when you bought your ticket, were there a lot of open seats? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, okay. So he saw my he saw my one dot in the theater and said, I'm gonna sit right next to that guy. And
he said, a friend.
There were some other people up front too, but none of them decided to sit right next to me. So eventually, as the movie was beginning, I said, hey man, it's not me, it's not you, it's me. And then I scooted over. I was like, I just don't want to be so close to somebody. But this is before COVID.
Funny. It always is funny with that. It's like when you're in a bathroom, at a urinal, and there's 6 open urinals, and someone comes right next to you.
I know. I'm always like, why? Just give me some space.
He just wants to feel. He just doesn't want to feel alone.
And then he fell asleep during the movie.
You just want someone to cuddle with.
My theory was that he like got off early from work or something, and then was like, "Well, I might as well go see a movie." Or even worse, what if he got fired? Or
he got fired and said, "All right,
time for
we're using this pension on."
But yeah, I've actually watched a ton of movies recently. We don't have time to talk about all of them.
Yeah, I will say I've been watching a lot of TV recently just because strange, like.
Oh yeah.
I've been watching like I think since like Mandalorian came out, I've been like, boo, I don't like binging anymore. Like, give me weekly. I like the experience of like every week I get to sit down and watch a new episode. And so I've liked that with like Obi-Wan and Barry. Barry's been amazing this season. But then Stranger Things drops and I'm right back in. And I've like, it's been out for less than a week and I've watched all 7 episodes that are out now.
There's 7? I thought they were only doing half the season.
Well, no, they're doing Volume 1 and Volume 2, so they're doing the last 2 episodes in July.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Yeah, but the thing about... Because now, like, it's such the golden goose of Netflix, they'll give it so much fucking money, and literally every episode of this season is over an hour long.
Wow.
The 7th episode, I think, is an hour and a half. And so I've been watching this so much. I love Stranger Things. I'm so addicted.
No, that's the weird thing. I was just talking about my roommate about this. I love the first 3 seasons of Stranger Things. Like I've seen the whole up until this new season came out. I had seen the whole thing like 2 or 3 times. Yeah. And but for some reason when this one dropped, I didn't have like the urge to go watch it right away. And so I still haven't watched it. But the thing that like I haven't seen any spoilers, thank goodness. I've seen like I know that the Kate Bush song is in it because everyone's talking about that.
Yeah.
And I know, well, I don't know if I should say for our audience, but I know a certain character is in it, at least for like a cameo.
Do you want to tell me? I'll cut it out of the episode.
Oh, okay, yeah. I just or you can just put a beep.
Yeah.
But I saw like behind the scenes that was back. So
yeah, he's back. It's a dream sequence. Yeah.
But now I want to watch it because everyone says it's really good.
Yeah, it's really fucking good. And because like I also like I'm the same way in that like I've watched at least I think the first season of Stranger Things is maybe like it's the best thing to come out of streaming.
Wow.
For sure.
Yeah.
I've seen that show, the first season at least, like probably 4 or 5 times alone.
Oh my gosh.
And I've enjoyed every season since. But yeah, when this one dropped, I was like, oh, okay. It's been so long, I think that doesn't help it. I mean, COVID didn't help them with that, but it's been so long. But I was like, okay, I mean, I guess I'll start watching it. Like I had no intention to like binge it or anything.
Yeah.
And then just like the first episode it just got me right back in. Like, and there are so many characters this season. It's absolutely absurd, and I care about every single one of them.
Damn, I need to watch it. I really want to watch that.
Yeah, you need to. I need to talk to someone about it.
I think I'll ask Blake, but because he's also a big fan, so we're planning on watching it together. But we're also planning on watching Kenobi and Our Flag Means Death, so we've got a lot to do.
Yeah.
But
yeah, well, Kenobi only has 3 episodes out right now.
I've seen the first 2. I watched them when I was home.
I watched
with
the
my
third
dad.
one yesterday.
I actually really liked it. I'm excited. Like I think it just tapped into like that nostalgia perfectly for me, where I was like, I grew up with the prequels, so I was like, I'm right back in. I was like, this is awesome. This is Star Wars. And come at me, neckbeards. I like little Leia. I think she's charming. I'll fight any of you. Name and place.
Name a place.
The time
Name
and
a lava planet.
Time and place, incel. You and me. I'll defend little Leia to the death.
All right. Well, this is a lot to be cut out. But...
we have to cut out when Jacob threatened the audience.
Yeah. But all right. So now, looking at this weekend. This weekend meaning May 25th, 2012.
Yeah.
Jacob, can you guess what was number 1?
I'm so
Box office
sick. Because I know it's the Avengers.
Wrong.
Wait, really?
Yes, this is the first weekend the Avengers has been dethroned.
Wow.
It's in its fourth weekend.
Men in Black 3.
Men in Black 3 did take the top spot. This is Memorial Day weekend.
Awesome.
Big Memorial Day release.
I'm just kidding, guys. I like the Avengers. I just like guessing what number 1 was, and it was getting old.
Getting a little cocky, I see.
But yeah, that's awesome. I had no idea because I mean, we'll talk about it, but I know the first Men in Black pretty well. I watched it as a kid,
same.
and it scared me. But I never saw the second. Or I think I maybe saw like half the second one on TV, so I didn't have really any interest in seeing the third one. I remember the trailers, but it surprises me that it was such a big release.
Yeah, it was. Which I did just realize. I'm recording in my closet right now, and I have a little shelf of some VHSs next to me, and I realize I have a VHS of Men in Black.
Nice.
Right next to me. I did watch this a lot. And I realized there's a sticker on the back because I bought this at a pawn shop, and there's a thing from Blockbuster Video.
I don't know if it's just the zoom screen or what, but it looks really shimmery, that cover.
It is. It's really shiny.
Ooh, I like that.
But yeah, and number 2 is the Avengers.
Oh, good.
Finally dethroned, but still making $36 million.
Yeah.
Oh, and Men in Black made $54 million, which is a pretty good opening.
Pretty good. Off of a budget of, let me guess.
We'll get into that.
300 million.
Can you guess what number 3 is?
Well, it's probably not Wes Anderson's Ode to Childhood, Moonrise Kingdom. so let me guess. It's, what did we have? Battleship?
It is Battleship.
I'm
not holding great, but made $11 million.
Yeah, I'm always just gonna bet on the big action movies.
Mm-hmm. It's always a good one. And then what's number 4, Jacob? What could it be?
Think Like a Man.
Nope, it is not Think Like a Man, but it is a comedy.
Is it Dark Shadows?
No.
Am I forgetting a comedy that? Oh, The Dictator.
It is The Dictator.
Yeah,
with $9 million.
I was gonna have to take umbrage if the Dark Shadows was called a comedy.
You're right. I would never. And then number 5 is another new release this weekend that I was kind of curious about. But Moonrise Kingdom sounded better. So it is a movie called Chernobyl Diaries. And it's about 6 tourists hire an extreme tour guide who takes them to the abandoned city Pripyat, the former home to the workers of the Chernobyl nuclear reactor. During their exploration, they soon discover they are not alone. And I think it's found footage. And I heard it was really bad.
I like that premise, but yeah, it does sound like it could be rough.
And then we have Dark Shadows in 6. That's only made $60 million by this point on that $150 million budget.
Oh, brother. I forget if we talked about if they ended up making their money back or not.
I would say no. They did better than they should have internationally.
Oh yeah,
but no, Japan. It did not cross the threshold, I would say, of profitability.
Tisk.
But the last thing that I'd say is a big note in the box office. Oh, I guess I should say Moonrise Kingdom came in number 15.
Not bad.
In number 15 in 4 theaters.
Wow.
Which that's a shit ton of money. That has a per screen average of $130,000.
Wow.
Which is a little nuts.
Yeah, that's crazy.
It came in just below The Lucky One. The Lucky One in its like 6th week.
Wow.
So really good for that. I think also like Wes Anderson does really well when they release limited. I think especially like because his movie after this was Grand Budapest Hotel, and that would I think like set the record
Yeah.
for like best per screen average, like in limited release.
Yeah, I remember that one was really big. Man, this must have been right when I was like discovering Wes Anderson, because I had seen.
This was my first Wes Anderson.
Yeah, obviously I had seen. Well, I shouldn't say obviously. It is, I don't know why it's obvious, but I had seen. I had seen Fantastic Mr. Fox in theaters, but I didn't like make the. I didn't go, oh, this is Wes Anderson. I was like, this is a cool movie I saw, and I knew I like registered that it was different, that it had like a very distinct style and sense of humor, but because I'm was a pretentious child. Well, I was like, at this point I'd seen a lot of like Coen Brothers movies because of my mom and dad, so I was like, oh, it's like I didn't probably have the words for it, but I was like, it's like that, it's it's a little more like oddball, but I definitely didn't know who Wes Anderson was, and then I saw this at my friend George's house, and I think he had seen it in theaters because his parents were like, his mom's like an antique dealer and they're from Europe.
Oh,
so
my
they're
God.
like very like
That's gotta be right up.
Yeah.
That's gotta be right up their alley.
And then I remember being like, okay, this guy is cool. And then we all saw Budapest together. Oh no, actually we didn't, but I saw it in theaters. Anyway.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's your history. But last thing in regard to the box office for this weekend is the Best Exotic Marigold Hotel this is the weekend it went wide. It added over 800 screens, and went up box office wise up 97% to 6 million.
Hell yeah.
So it made like 16 million by this point. So it did well. So good for it.
Love Best Exotic Marigold Hotel.
As Jacob has said, he loves Indian cinema.
Yeah, I'm a big Indian Bollywood head now.
Yeah. Jacob, what's your history with Men in Black Cubed?
Well, as I said, I don't like, I feel like as a kid I would watch things, and even if I didn't necessarily like them, I still ended up watching them a lot.
Yeah,
like,
I feel that too.
And that's kind of how I felt about Men in Black, where I liked it, but it wasn't like, oh, I love this movie. But I feel like I saw it a bunch because I have it like seared into my mind.
Yeah.
And I remember the villain really scared me. That he was he was
a giant cockroach.
Yeah, he's like a big bug monster, and he's got roaches crawling out of his sleeves. But yeah, like, and I still have in my, like, I'll never forget when he's like, sugar water. So like I saw that movie a bunch, liked it well enough, and then I saw like half the second one on TV, and all I remember about it is that there's like I think the villain is a lady, and she has like vines or tentacles that shoot out or something, and
yeah,
she like has
something like that.
She like makes out with Rip Torn.
Oh god, I don't remember that.
The audience, you could cite me on that if that's real or not. But yeah, so I had never seen this and never had much desire to. I guess I kind of assumed that they got worse as they went along, but I loved this. I had so much fun. What's your history, Colin, my friend?
Well, I also kind of grew up. I think I mentioned I have my VHS of the original Men in Black that I bought at a thrift store or a pawn shop or somewhere for 99 cents.
Nice.
And I remember watching it a lot because when I grew up, this is a bit of a tangent, but when I grew up, my parents were very like, you're not having a TV in your room. If we put that there, you're never coming out. Probably a smart idea.
My parents said the same thing, yeah.
Yeah, but then when my grandpa stayed at my house one time, and like he like has his Seinfeld VHSs that he would just like put in and like needed to fall asleep for some reason. Just needed the lovely voice of Jerry. But then they just left it there, and so I just had an old like box TV with a VHS player, and so I just buy like 99-cent VHS tapes. I mean, like that's how I saw like Terminator and RoboCop and all that.
That's awesome.
So I just had Men in Black was in the rotation of those. Like I'd put something on every night, even if I just watched the first like 5 minutes.
Yeah.
But I love the first Men in Black. It's great. It's not one that I'd say like is my favorite movie ever, but I think just as a movie, it's kind of perfect. Bless you.
Thank you.
And it has great San Antonio native Tommy Lee Jones.
Oh
in
yeah.
But yeah, the first one's great. The second one I watched and I really didn't like. I think it's not very funny. Yeah, you have the villain's a hot woman who makes out with Rip Torn, I guess. It's very forgettable, very boring. They do a really bizarre thing with the story because the end of the first one is Tommy Lee Jones retiring, and so they kind of have to undo the goodwill of the first movie to bring him back in. They kind of do what they did with Kingsman 2 with Colin Firth because they give him amnesia.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
But then I remember when this one came out, I don't remember why I watched it, but I have the DVD of it that I think I bought like in 2012 or 2013. I probably got it for a gift. And I remember watching it a bit and liking it fine.
Uh-huh.
And watching it this time, yeah, I like it fine. I think it's an okay movie.
See, I was like, I really want to go back and rewatch the first one now because I haven't seen it in a long time. And I might as well watch the second one while I'm at it, you know, and then I can report back on the makeout scene. But did you ever see the fourth one, International?
I did. The fourth one is, I would put up there as one of the worst major blockbusters that I have ever seen.
Woof.
To be honest, it is it feels so half-assed. It feels so cheap. I only saw it because they were showing it at the College Union for free, and it was so bland. It was so unfunny. It was, I swear to God, because like especially when watching the first movie and like you see all the aliens and there's all like the great like practical effects and like all like some puppets and stuff, and it's really creative. I swear to God, there's probably like 3 aliens in that whole movie, like 3 actual aliens, I think.
Yeah.
And I remember I really noticed because there's a scene where Tessa Thompson and Chris Hemsworth go into a club, and it's like, oh, you imagine like it's gonna be like, even like this one when they go to Andy Warhol's place, like there's kind of, you know, a lot of people around. They're like, oh, they could be aliens or they could just be weird. This club is the most generic thing ever with 1 alien in it, and it's just like a guy with a weird head, and that's it. So
Damn.
yeah, I hate Men in Black International.
Damn, that sucks. Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson are so charismatic.
Yeah.
Oh well. At least we have Men in Black 3.
Yeah. Men in Black 3, well, because you kind of asked about the budget. Do you want to guess what the budget was for this movie?
I will guess 175 million.
$225 million.
Ooh, okay.
So I do remember there was, I think I heard about this a little after it came out, but that movie had a horrible production. It was like a nightmare production because I think I heard something that they were shooting the movie, and then Will Smith, because he was creative producer, said like, nah, script's not there, let's take a break. And then so they went on a production break, but still had to pay the whole like crew to not work for like a substantial amount of time to completely rework the script.
Wow.
And get to a place that Will Smith was happy about is a story that I heard.
That's wild. I don't know if I've ever heard of something like that happening, but hey, I mean, if you're like a, you know, key grip on Men in Black 3, a pretty sweet gig.
I know, I guess so. Yeah, if you're getting paid to not work.
Yeah. The only way it could be better is if they were filming in like Tahiti or something, and you just
just gotta lounge to the beach.
But yeah, I guess should we enlighten the good people who may have not seen Men in Black 3 on what this picture is about?
Yeah, you wanna
Sure.
Would you like to pleasure the people with that?
As someone who has a vague memory of, well, a pretty good memory of Men in Black 1 and almost no memory of Men in Black 2, This movie picks up right where we left off. And, so we start our best friends, K and J, which I did not remember their names were just letters.
Yeah.
And also JK, like, just kidding. So funny. They're on the job doing Men in Black stuff. I was eating a muffin for the first part of this movie, so my notes pick up once he was drinking chocolate milk at that little kid's house, and she says, the president's drinking my milk. Which I was like, that's a very odd comment. But then I was like, Obama. Yeah.
Well, you forgot about the opening scene where we meet the villain, Boris.
Yes, I love Boris. Partly because
I like Boris the animal.
Because I realized it was Jermaine Clement.
Boris. I remember watching this movie and liking his performance and his voice and being like, who the hell even is this, like, random guy?
Yeah.
I remember someone saying he looked like Macho Man Randy Savage.
He does, yeah. Especially in the future when he's got one arm.
But yeah, so I was a nice surprise to see that it was Jermaine Clement.
Yeah. I love Flight of the Conchords and What We Do in the Shadows and Moana. So I was like, yes, Jermaine Clement. And I was honestly like, I liked him so much that I was like, why isn't he in more stuff? Like, I know he's in some more like indie comedies, but this is like a big budget action movie.
That's why I was surprised.
Yeah, I was like, he should be in more stuff like this because he's really great. Also, his power, it was legitimately upsetting to me. Like his hand. So for y'all who haven't seen it, his hand has like these like crisscrossing like flesh nodules on it. And then they all open up like little mandibles, and he just has this like open wound basically that this like crab monster lives inside and can shoot spikes, and it's disgusting.
It's creative and visually interesting.
Yeah, and it's definitely like it feels like the cockroach monster from the first movie. Like it feels like that same level of upsetting that would have bothered me as a kid. But yeah, he's really cool. He's very fun. His design's great. He's got these creepy like goggle things that are like stuck into his eyes.
Yeah, I did see that apparently Jermaine Clement had to like the makeup to become Boris took 4.5 hours.
I can believe it. It's a pretty good makeup job. Like the only part of it that looks a little shoddy is whenever he lifts up his head and you see under his beard, he has like a little bit of the weird skin on his neck too, but that looks a little bit like you can see the seams of where they like glued it down. But his face looks great and his hand looks great and then they blend it with CG really well. So Boris is awesome. And this is the part I really like too, is we enter on this woman who's a Boris groupie, who looks like this is the weirdest reference ever, but she looks like the woman that Rosamund Pike sees when she's driving around in Gone Girl and she's looking at all the other kinds of women. And she's like, this is the hipster.
That's such a specific reference.
She's like, this is the hipster girl. Her boyfriend loves fetishistic anime or whatever.
Oh my god.
And like, that's what she looks like. She has Boris tattooed on her back. And she walks
bringing
up,
him a birthday cake.
Yeah, which is undulating strangely. And this, like, right off the bat, I was like, something about this style makes me feel like a kid and like feels very 2000s in a good way. Like the way everything is kind of weird and gross, and then even the title came up and it was like this very thin, like almost like chalk. I was like, what is this?
That was in the especially the first one.
Okay.
I never had that.
Yeah, because I was like used to like the big, how it looks on the DVD where it's like MIB in like silver letters.
Yeah.
And so it was like this little like boyhood font. I was like, what's happening? And we learn throughout the course that his arch nemesis is Tommy Lee Jones, who is Will Smith's partner. And Tommy Lee Jones shot off his arm.
Yeah, we learned they have a history together.
Yeah,
that all culminated on the the launch of the Apollo 11 mission.
Yeah, that Tommy Lee Jones shot off his arm in Cape Canaveral, Florida on July 16th, 1969. Yeah. I watched this movie like an hour ago.
But yeah, and so we find out that Boris, like, in the past was trying to... What was he trying? He was trying to...
That part was a little confusing. I think
his goal was kind of... He was trying to find a person who has this thing called the ArcNet, which is it's a planetary, like, defense system. I guess it's like a force field.
Yeah.
And he's trying to find the last of, like, a rival species who's on Earth who has this. And Tommy Lee Jones is trying to get it, and then also has to deploy this into space in order, because that was the one thing that was also confusing, is because they established that we haven't even said that time travel's in this movie.
Oh yeah.
So Boris, he breaks out of prison. He realizes that, or he's gonna time travel back to July 16th, 1969, and he kills Agent K. And so then Agent K vanishes from the timeline, but somehow Will Smith still remembers.
Yeah.
Remembers him, and then also time travels back to July 15th, 1969 to try and kill Boris before he can do that.
And maybe there's something to be said for Will Smith halting the production, because I actually really liked the way they handled the time travel in this. Because I feel like normally when you have a plot like this where it's like someone gets killed in the past, so it messes up the future. You have a whole sequence where, like, you see them get killed in the past, and you see how it affects the future. But in this, you just know that Boris wants to go back in time, and then you just see Tommy Lee Jones and everything in his life fade away, and so you know it's been done, which I really liked. It's kind of like the reverse almost of Marty McFly starting to disappear.
Yeah.
But I thought that was really cool. And then Will Smith still remembers his life with Tommy Lee Jones, but then he goes to the Men in Black headquarters, and everyone's like, "What are you talking about?" Until he meets Tommy Lee Jones's old squeeze, played by Nanny McPhee. And she's like, I should say the actual name, but I can't remember her name now.
Agent O.
No, the actor's name.
Emma Thompson.
Yeah, Emma Thompson. She's great.
She's really funny in this. I like her.
I like her at the funeral. She like gives this eulogy. At the beginning, they're at a funeral for Rip Torn.
Yeah, for poor Rip Torn, which he wasn't dead at this point, so I don't know why he wasn't in this.
Maybe he just didn't want to, I guess.
Maybe.
But because I feel like this one came out like at least like 6 years after the second one. Like, I feel like it was a while.
Oh yeah, it was a big time jump, because I think the second one came out in like 2002, I think.
Oh wow.
And then this came out in 2012.
Yeah.
So it was a big jump, which I can speak on that, because this comes at a very interesting point in Will Smith's career.
Oh yes.
As will this podcast come out.
There's something about it. Every 10 years, Will Smith has a
it's change. A nexus point.
If only we had Michael Stuhlbarg.
Michael Stuhlbarg is sitting at the Oscars next to Will Smith.
Yeah.
Oh no, this can't be the reality.
Is this the one where as long as Chris Rock doesn't make the joke, we should be okay? G.I. Jane. Oh no.
Oh no. But I guess I could speak to that of just like, because I think when Men in Black 2 came out and wasn't received super well, Will Smith kind of pivoted a little away from kind of franchise stuff. He had just done Men in Black 2. He did Bad Boys 2.
Oh yeah.
And so he kind of pivoted more towards like just star-driven vehicles. And I mean like like Hancock came out like a few years later than that. And like I Am Legend, like I think that one is a big watermark for him, because that movie is just him. That's the only thing that movie's being sold on, and it made gangbusters money.
Yeah.
But then I think it was 2008, I want to say, he had the movie 7 Pounds come out. Have you seen this film?
Is that the one with the jellyfish?
Yes, it is.
I haven't seen it, but I've heard of it.
I have seen it, It is horrible. It's the most like Oscar baity, like pretentious garbage I've ever seen. I hate that movie. It's so bad. But that one, I think there was a point of like, okay, I need to reevaluate. And so Will Smith has not been in a movie for 4 years at this point.
Wow.
He took a break from 2008 to then this in 2012. It was like, okay, I need a safe vehicle to jump back in on. We're going to use like a franchise that people like that hasn't been for a while and jump back in on Men in Black 3.
Wow, okay. I think it was smart because I really liked him in this. It felt like classic Will Smith, like very charismatic. I felt like he was going to rap at any moment.
It is funny because I think, yeah, especially in the first one and the second one, he has a rap that released with the movie.
Yeah.
But then this one, it's Pitbull.
Yeah. I thought he was going to be featured on the Pitbull track.
Oh, that would have been great.
Also, because Tommy Lee Jones listens to quote unquote cowboy music in the movie when they were there in the car. So I was waiting for Will Smith to go, "You want to hear cowboy music?" and then go, "Wiki wiki wow, wiki wow."
No.
Jim West, Desperado.
God. I know you're a Wild West defender. That movie sucks.
That movie's awesome.
That movie's so bad.
You
enjoy the giant spider?
Yeah, I love, much like this movie, I like when things do like a history remix. So like in this movie, I really like how a lot of it revolved around the Apollo mission, at least in the third act. And I was like, oh, this is cool, because I assumed when we were talking about the moon and shit and having to get the ArcNet to the moon, I thought that we were going to see Will Smith with a big bubble helmet on hopping around the moon, which I would have been fine with. But I like that instead they're like, well, we've already got something going to the moon on this day in history. Let's just put the ArcNet on the ship, which is what they did. Spoilers.
Oh, and I did think of you during Rip Torn's funeral when they have those little skinny alien guys all playing the bagpipes.
I can say that his ass was not playing the bagpipes, because I can play Amazing Grace on the bagpipes, and his where his fingers were, he would have been playing like F and E over and over again.
Yes, a little known fact, Jacob is a master bagpipe player.
I don't know about master. I got a bronze medal one time at a Highland Games out of 4 people.
Oh my god. My favorite, because you had mentioned that once and I didn't really know, but then weren't you doing something for someone, of like someone asked you and you went into a park and were playing bagpipes in the middle of the night, and a friend of mine just sent a video because they just happened to be walking by and they're like, what the fuck is Jacob doing in the park playing bagpipes in the middle of the night?
Yeah, it was our friend Sam, and because I heard, like, it was so dark, I was standing like, well, actually, I always think that it's this park near us that has like a big field and a basketball court. And
the basketball court at night is the only thing that's lit.
Okay,
everything
so it
else
is lit.
Pitch black.
Yeah, because I kept thinking, I was like, there's got to be a light down there. I was there playing bagpipes because my friend was doing an audio documentary, and so she was like, oh, I'll do one on Jacob because he plays the bagpipes. And at this point, I hadn't played in like 3 years, and she was like, would you call this your passion? And I was like, no. And then she was like, well, this project is supposed to be on passions, so can you say it is? And I was like, yeah, I got you. And then Sam was just walking by, and the weird thing is like, after I finished playing, I thought I heard like, Jacob? Just from like the dark tree line. And I was like, hello? Nothing. And then I get a call, and I pick up my phone, and it's Sam, and she's like, are you playing bagpipes in the park? But yeah, it was a lot of fun. There was a like random group of people that came by just to listen, which was nice.
That's funny. So back on top.
Yeah.
So Will Smith has to time travel back in time to save his friend Tommy Lee Jones. What'd you think of Tommy Lee Jones in the first part of this movie?
I like him. I think like, because I feel like I'm used to seeing him very like stoic and and so I like that he's like having a little bit of fun here. In still a very like no nonsense kind of way, but he was funny. I did think it was a little weird because I like their relationship. I like how they play off each other, but I thought it was a bit odd, like that. It seemed like there were a lot of like meaningful looks and then like some like sweet music would play, and I'd be like, I don't know if I feel this moment the way they want me to. And then I also thought it was weird that he's like not in most of the movie.
Yeah.
But I mean, for obvious reasons. But I was like, man, because I feel like these movies are such a buddy thing. Mm-hmm. But I did think he was great with Josh Brolin, who plays young Tommy Lee Jones, and does a wonderful job.
Honestly, I feel like Josh Brolin does a better Tommy Lee Jones performance than Tommy Lee Jones. I feel like because this movie, I feel like it was kind of constructed around the idea of like, okay, we can have Tommy Lee Jones there, but then we don't actually have to have him there. Just because I feel like he's still alive, he's still kicking, still I guess he shows up in some things now.
Yeah, sometimes.
But I feel like they're like, all right, he doesn't really want to do this.
Yeah.
And I felt like it kind of did feel like he was sleepwalking through the first part of the movie.
Oh yeah.
I think they tried to explain some of it away with like, oh, he's just still so worked up by Boris and by this thing that has happened in the past, but I don't know, it didn't really come across that way.
Interesting. I guess I was just like, oh, because I haven't seen the other one in a long time. Mm-hmm. I just was like, oh, this is just how he is. Just very wooden.
Yeah, I think at least the first one, from what I remember, he's so funny in the first one. Like, he's very kind of fast talking with it. Or like, I don't know. He has he's very no nonsense, but just kind of like hits it all very quickly. And this time he felt like, all right, let's go, Jay. Oh, you got an alien in this kitchen.
Which, by the way, can we talk about Woo for a second?
Oh yeah, they go to a Asian restaurant or a Chinese restaurant, and it's run by an alien.
Where they get called in because the people there are being fed alien food instead of human food, and they have intestinal alien worms now.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, I thought that was gonna be a thing. Like, I thought they were gonna have to deal with some gross stuff, but then they just kind of didn't. I guess those people were taken for treatment or something. They never say. But anyway, another example of 2012 and not the best depiction of Asian Americans.
Yeah.
But at least this one, they like have a story reason. Like, there's still some lines that are not great. But like the character of Wu is doing like a Chinese accent.
Very Chinese.
Yeah, and at first I was like, he might actually have an accent similar to this, but I feel like they're definitely having him play it up. But then the reveal was because he's an alien, he's playing a character. He's just trying to like throw them off, and so he's actually just like, hey man, like give me some slack.
Well, that's the fun thing about this series and just like this concept is that it's like I feel like it's very tied in with like New York. Like in New York City, it very much has the idea of like, oh yeah, you see that like the guy serving the food you've never seen before in the streetcar. He's an alien. That's an alien food. That guy who looks like a monster. Yeah, he's an alien.
Yeah, I thought that was funny. I really like that there's just aliens among us.
Yeah. Among us.
Among us. Sus.
Among us.
Among us. And
New York's so sus.
It is. It's sus-pilled. And but like I did think that must have been a funny casting call or like casting process to be like, do you look like a greasy freak? You could play an alien. Like the guy that in the bowling alley, not the CG guy, but the other guy. Or I know there's a guy in the first movie who kind of has a similar look with like the comb over and big nose, and they like shrink his head.
Oh,
down.
Tony Shalhoub, I think.
Oh, he's in it?
I think so.
Because I think
Tony Shalhoub.
Michael Stuhlbarg. How do you say it?
That's probably right. I don't know.
Yeah. I always forget his name. I only know it today because it was in the credits, but I love he's a great actor. I love him in everything that I've seen him in. But
did you like him in this movie?
I did. I thought there were times where he was a little like cheesy, but it didn't really bother me, and I liked that he looked goofy. And I liked his, like, at first I was like, oh boy, I think this gag is gonna get old, But I liked like how they explained his deal. So basically, so y'all know what we're talking about, he's a fifth dimensional being.
Yeah.
And he experiences like every timeline all at once. He experiences everything everywhere all at once.
Yeah.
And so he's on Earth because he's the one who has the ArcNet, who's the last survivor of the Arcanians.
Yeah, the civilization that has been wiped out by Boris the Animal's civilization.
Yeah, the Boglodites.
Yeah,
I did like how much lore there was, where they would just reference aliens that they haven't even told us about, or they'd be like, "You take the Argonian," all. So his name's Griffin, Michael Stuhlbarg, and he has crazy blue contacts. He looks like Legolas in The Hobbit. And he knows every timeline, so like he'll constantly be like, he explains that this is a pain in the ass to live this way, but he'll constantly be like, "Oh, I'm doing fine, unless this is the timeline where Boris comes in the door right now," and then they look at the door and he goes, "Okay, we're good," which I thought was funny. So I liked his shtick, and I liked the sci-fi-ness of the multiple universes, especially like how it works with time travel. It was cool sci-fi, but it wasn't like too much that it gets complicated.
Yeah, I think it's a fun thing to have in this one. Like I do like the bit of like when they're at the party and he keeps being like, oh, hopefully we're not in the reality where like Jessica has to do that, where Jessica falls over and then breaks up with him, and then and then he runs into him, which triggers that, and then I need to move my sandwich, and then someone goes falling through the table it's on.
Yeah, that was really cool. And like I feel like a lot of his stuff was weirdly sweet. Like we learn later that he since he can see everything that's going on, what we're seeing isn't necessarily what he's seeing. So he's at an empty baseball stadium because there's a whole thing where they're trying to find him, but he gets lost, and then they hear someone talking about the Mets and how they suck, and Will Smith is like, "Funny thing is, the Mets actually go all the way this year," and Tommy Lee Jones is like, "No way," or not Tommy Lee Jones, Josh Brolin is like, "No way, that'll never happen." And then he realizes, he's like, "That's where Griffin's at. He's at the Mets game." But the Mets game's not happening yet. It's like the middle of the night. So they're like, "What are you doing, man? You're just watching the field." And then he like touches them, and then they can see he's watching the game that hasn't happened yet because he can see everything. And he's talking about
he's breaking down about how like, oh, the ball that he's throwing is weighted differently because like a horse was let out to tan too much, or the leather on that was. Because like the farmer who had it got divorced.
Yeah.
And like so, the guy who makes the winning catch, like he would have become a typist if his parent had an extra glass of wine that night.
Yeah. And he explains that it's his favorite moment in human history because everything had to happen just right. And he has a really good line. Let's see if I can remember it. He says something like he's like, miracles are things that seem impossible but happen anyway, or something like that. And it's like, them beating Boris is gonna have to be like a miracle. Which I thought was really cool. I was like, man, this is like emotional at this baseball game. And then later, because then he like kind of joins the crew and is helping them get the ArcNet to the Apollo mission, and he says like, "If this works out, it'll be my new favorite moment in human history," which I thought was a sweet line. But then at the end, when it's of course a happy ending, there's a part where he like looks right into the camera and goes, "This is my favorite moment," and I was like, okay, I don't know if we needed that.
Unless this is the reality where Kay forgets to leave a tip.
Oh yeah, and then by the way, so they have a final joke where he goes, "This is my favorite moment unless this is the reality where Kay forgot to leave a tip," because they're at a diner. And he looks and there's no tip, and he's like, "Oh my god!" And he looks up and there's a meteor coming down. And then Kay comes in and goes, "Almost forgot," and left the tip. And then he goes, "Ah!" And then it cuts back into space, and the meteor smashes into a satellite, and it's like, all is well. But I'm like, now it's just 100 meteors.
No, that satellite got them all.
Yeah, I was like, all this shrapnel still has to come down. I guess maybe it burned up on re-entry.
Yeah, they're small enough to hit the atmosphere.
Yeah. But But yeah, I feel like we skipped around a lot. But
yeah, we have skipped around a lot in this movie because I don't know. I feel like with this one, like, I think this is I have seen it a lot in bits and pieces on TV. I feel like this movie plays on like FX like every other day. I feel like this is a good type of movie for that. It's exciting. Has some jokes. It didn't do a lot for me this time watching that made it like over the top good. I think overall it's a pleasant watch.
Yeah. I think it just like reminded me of, it kind of was like Kenobi, where it was like, oh, I feel like I'm in 2005 with all these like colorful effects, and also most of the effects were actually pretty good, but there were a couple of moments.
There's some really bad CG.
Yeah, I think whenever it's someone like flying around, it looks shoddy.
Yeah.
It looks like Spy Kids.
It does.
Like when they have the giant jetpacks, or when he's falling. So like to do a time jump, you literally have to jump. So he jumps off the Chrysler building, or maybe I think it's the Chrysler.
Yeah, it's the Chrysler building.
Yeah, and
one of
then
those.
like his time travel device activates right before he hits the ground.
But there's a whole part where he drops it, and it's all going, and that you can tell is completely CGI.
Yeah, and the
that
way.
part looked,
yeah, I didn't particularly care. I like the idea of you having to jump to time travel, and I like how once he actually time travels, he sees like time happening around him. Like as he's falling, he sees pterodactyls, and then he sees the road start to be paved, and then he sees
like Wall Street, the Wall Street crash, and
that was a really dark
V-Day.
joke.
Yeah,
he gets a newspaper in his face that says Wall Street crash, and then he looks to his side, and there's a businessman who also jumped off the building, and then he gets another newspaper that says the war is over.
Yeah,
and I thought, because every movie that deals with V-Day in New York has that woman being kissed on the street. So I thought he was going to fall to the street, kiss her, and then it was going to be 1969, which would have been funny. But yeah, so I liked that, but him falling looked pretty shoddy. Yeah. I did like the guy who helps him time travel. That was
I like that guy too.
Yeah, I thought that was a clever way to get around all the explanatory stuff. Like, they basically have him with this like stoner guy who
he's like, my dad invented time travel or something.
Yeah, his dad invented time travel, and then we meet him at the beginning in Lunar Max, and Boris kills him with his spike crab arm. Which, by the way, I thought it was gonna be more of a thing, because he keeps talking about wanting to get his arm back, and I was like, oh, if he has his arm back, he'll be even more powerful, because he'll have two things that can shoot spikes.
But no, he's just mad about it.
Yeah, it's just a normal arm. So, screenwriter, I have some bones to pick with you. Also, I saw that the screenwriter's name, at first I was like, Ethan Cohen wrote this?
Yeah, I saw that too. Ethan Cohen.
Yeah, it's spelled slightly different. They moved the H, because Ethan Cohen is ETHANCOEN, and this guy, Etan Cohen, is ETANCOHEN.
Yeah, I'm trying to see what else has he done. Ooh, he wrote Idiocracy, Madagascar 2, Holmes and Watson. Holmes and Watson. A lot of Will Ferrell stuff. Oh, Tropic Thunder. It's a lot of comedies.
He wrote Tropic. I thought Justin Theroux wrote Tropic Thunder.
Justin Theroux.
Yeah. Well, from The Leftovers.
Oh God. Wait. He also wrote a short film called Forgive Me, My Wife is Retarded.
Oh no.
So
what year was that?
2007.
Okay.
Right in between Idiocracy and Tropic Thunder.
It was a passion project.
Yeah. But in terms of this movie, like, I really didn't remember what happens in the middle. And so I think watching it, though, it's a pretty straightforward kind of story with that. I did like going to Andy Warhol's party, which was played by Bill Hader.
I thought that was so funny. Yeah.
I like that that he's actually an undercover agent who is so he's so tired of having to live this undercover life. That was funny. He's like, please, I'm gonna start painting soup cans. I'm so done with this place.
I thought that was good. there's some stuff that, because it's Bill Hader, I was like, this feels improvised.
Yeah.
Like when Will Smith takes his Andy Warhol wig and throws it. And he's like, hey, how do you like that? And Bill Hader's like, oh, good, cute. Somebody missed nap time.
Yeah, it was funny to see him, and then also Will Arnett has a cameo in the beginning. He's revealed as Will Smith's like partner in this timeline where Tommy Lee Jones is dead.
Yeah. That would have been nice if there was a callback to that, like after the timeline gets fixed, if Will Smith goes up to him and is like, "Hey man," and he's like, "Who are you? What? Why are you talking to me?" Like now it's reversed. Like, oh, speaking of, earlier you said that this felt like a movie that could be shown on TV a lot. Well, for me, for whatever reason, one of the movies that is always on TV is Star Trek Into Darkness, and the girl from that was in this.
Oh yes, she's Alice Eve.
Yeah. As young O, and I've never seen her in anything else.
She's in some other things. Not that I can think of, but I like her. She should be in more things.
Yeah, she was good, and I like. That was something I liked, was that there kept being these moments where young Tommy Lee Jones, who was Josh Brolin,
great job by Josh Brolin, by the way.
Yeah, he did awesome. Like, and I loved all of his. Like, I love the running gag of him calling Will Smith anything but Jay. He's like, Hondo, Slick, Cochise. But I also I thought the dialogue was pretty great. I liked how Will Smith, like, I feel like he's, a government agent. Like, he should be more, like, proper. But he's calling people my man and dog. I was like, it's really funny. But yeah, like anytime Josh Brolin will show like a little more emotion than we're used to from the character, and then Will Smith is like, "What happened to you, man?" Like, I liked all that stuff, but I feel like the reveal wasn't super clear. I guess it's
that's the biggest weakness of this movie, is that end reveal of also why Will Smith can remember everything about him.
So, for those of y'all who may have not watched it, and I know all of you did.
It'll be on FX probably every other day.
Yeah, but I want to say it's on Hulu. I think I may have seen it. But anyway, the reveal at the end, we learn... So I don't remember if this was a thing in the first movie, and I definitely don't remember the second movie, but Griffin asks Will Smith about his watch, and we see he has this stopwatch from his dad, or pocket watch, yeah. And earlier in the movie, he says like, "Oh, my dad was never there," kind of thing. And Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Don't talk bad about your father. It's not right." And we're like, "Okay." And then, at the end, there's this colonel at the space mission
at Cape Canaveral.
Yeah, who is like, "I'm gonna arrest you guys. Why are you here on this big day for America?" And then Griffin shows him that what they're saying is true about space and everything in the future. And so he lets them up to put the ArcNet on the thing. Which, by the way, Boris is already up there. How did he get there?
Yeah.
It's not important. But anyway, you're like, oh, cool, this guy helped them out. And I assumed it was just a nice thing because there was a couple references to like the civil rights movement and how
I'm glad that the movie addressed that, like, because the guy who helps him time travel is like, that you gotta do this or else you'll be trapped in 1969. Wasn't exactly a great time for your people. Like, at least they address it. Like, there's always that joke of like, black people would not enjoy the concept of time travel as much as others would.
Yeah, I was a little worried about how they were going to handle that because it could have gone wrong, but I guess because Will Smith had some sway, and also he probably wouldn't have done something that was like, racist because he's got that power. But there's a scene where he gets pulled over, and I was like, uh-oh.
After he's stolen a car, stolen a nice car, so the cops pull him over.
So he actually has stolen a car, but they're like giving a hard time because he's a black man driving a nice car in a nice suit in the 60s. And then luckily he gives them what for and tells them, he's like, I did steal this car, but not because I'm black.
Yeah. He's like, just because you see a black man driving a nice car doesn't mean they stole it. Okay, I did steal this one, but
yeah, which I liked. So I assumed that was just at the end their ally. I thought it was just a nice nod that is like, see, it's nice to see a black man in a position of power in a government, office, but then it turns out to go deeper than that because we learn that guy. So at the end, Josh Brolin says to him, "I could use a man like you in the Men in Black," and he's like, "I'd like that, sir," or whatever. And then Boris kills him right then and there. And then Tommy Lee Jones kills Boris, which is cool because it's a satisfying moment because he says, "Oh, I regret putting him in prison. I should have just killed him."
Yeah, that's a weird message though about just like, all right, don't take him in, just shoot him dead.
Especially like in 2022.
Yeah.
Like it's different when they're
a monster alien, space alien. Yeah.
but still, because he's like, "What are you gonna do? Put me away?" And Tommy Lee Jones is like, "Not this time," or Josh Brolin, and then shoots him with the space gun. But anyway, then a little kid gets out of the colonel's car and is like, "Where's my dad?" And he's like, "My dad gave me this," and it's the watch. And we
reveal that it's young Will Smith there.
Yeah, which I was like, do the times even add up? I feel like he was so young in the first movie, but he was a 8-year-old in 1969.
It's so bizarre. Because I think in the first, this is definitely kind of retconning stuff. Because in the first one, the main thing is just Tommy Lee Jones wants him in Men in Black just because he was able to keep up with whatever alien species they call it. That's super fast, and so because he's super athletic and stuff. That's the reason he gives. But I guess it's supposed to add some hidden meaning to there's a lot of parts where Tommy Jones is just kind of looking at him, and stuff.
Which I like that relationship. I like that it gives a little more to their relationship. And there's a really cute shot where Josh Brolin is walking off down the beach hand in hand with young Will Smith. And it's revealed that he uses his forget me laser on young Will Smith. Yeah, so that's why he doesn't remember his dad, I guess. And that's why why he's like, "Don't talk bad about your father." But I feel like that would have hit harder if we had known the Colonel for more than just being seen. If he had been a character that they have to deal with throughout the movie. It was just seemed like kind of just a weird add-on. And then but I liked it emotionally. And then
it works well emotionally in the movie, but in actual timeline stuff, it's very confusing.
Yeah, and then when Will Smith comes back to the present, there's a sweet moment where they're at the diner, and they share a moment. But I wish they had hugged. Call me crazy. I know they're two manly men just sharing a meaningful look, but I wish they had hugged, or they had because they were both sitting there with their hands on the counter. I wish they had Tommy Lee Jones patted his hand or something and then got up. I'm like,
and then they kissed.
No, I feel like they just needed to share a moment more than just a look.
Yeah,
but
that
what do
part,
I know?
I feel like that had to have been added in the rewrites that they did. Because it feels like something that's very... I don't know, because I feel like it's barely touched upon throughout the whole movie. The stuff with Will Smith and his dad. I feel like it's just 2 times, and then supposed to have this big moment. So it feels like that definitely got added. And I also did see that apparently, in my research, Will Smith really fought to have Jaden play the son.
Oh, that would have been awesome.
I think Jaden at this point was this is post Karate Kid, no. Right before After Earth.
He's too old.
Mm-hmm. Well, also my question is, why was that kid just sitting in the car on the beach?
Yeah, why was the Colonel okay, time for me to get in my car on the beach?
Yeah, just because the kid, he makes some mention when they first go up is you are trying to deface this proud day for America among the eyes of God, the whole world, and my firstborn son.
Yeah,
he says something like that.
Yeah,
but it's now really confusing.
Yeah, maybe there was a scene where he while they're fighting Boris, he drives his son out to the beach so they can watch the launch.
So.
But I'm like, why? Like, I don't know. It's just too much.
They kind of they're running for their lives when it's launching. Like, it doesn't seem like it's at a safe distance.
Yeah. Also, that was something, and I was looking down to write a note at the time, so I don't know exactly what went down, but I felt like the whole fight on the spaceship is a very cool setting for a finale, but I felt like it was a little anticlimactic.
Yeah, I feel that too, because I think there's at least 2 times when Boris grabs like either Josh Brolin or Tommy Lee Jones, and then just instead of throwing him any other way off of the platform, just tosses him right down the platform.
Yeah. And there's a moment that was kind of confusing where, like, because they have basically Griffin tells Will Smith that after they succeed, he's gonna have to go back to the future, and as they're riding up the elevator, he tells Josh Brolin, like, there's not really gonna be a chance for me to say goodbye. And then there's a part where he grabs old Boris, because both Borises are there, which is cool. I like that. And he grabs old Boris and jumps off of the platform with him and has the time travel machine. And so I was like, oh shit, like, he's just going back now? Which I thought he was like, I'm taking old Boris with me, I'll kill him in the future or something. But then he shows up right where he left off. So I guess he time traveled.
I think he changes it to like whatever the time is.
Yeah.
Like 9:30.
So he goes back just like a few minutes because then they repeat the dialogue. But
it's really weird because like Boris also time travels with him, and then Boris does the exact same thing.
Yeah.
That I was really confused on.
Yeah, that doesn't totally make sense. Like, most time travel rules, I feel like, say that if you go back in time, now there are 2 of you. Like, there's the one that was already there, and now you're also there.
Yeah, that's super confusing, because, I mean, in that scene, there's Boris, there's 60s Boris and future Boris. Like, there's 2 of them there, so I feel like if they time traveled, then they just show up a minute earlier and see Will Smith and future Boris again.
Yeah.
It's very confusing. That is kind of a weak set piece, I'd say, just because it ultimately culminates in just like Will Smith dodging some things, and Boris's big line is, "That's not possible."
Yeah, like it felt weird. It didn't feel like a climactic ending. And also, then to kill him, he punches him off the tower, which is cool. But because we've seen him do so many crazy things, to me that didn't feel like an ending. I was like, oh, he's not dead. We can't rely on him falling. We have to see him get like vaporized.
Yeah, well then we do see when the rocket takes off. Did you see that part?
Oh no,
when Apollo 11 takes off, you see like the fumes like burn him.
Oh, okay. I must have been looking down for that part. But yeah, it just felt like an odd climax. Also very Cold Horizon, the Ballad of Dax Omega, I have to say. That's a short film I made in junior year of high school. But at the end, the hero is walking and the bad guy's shooting him, and he's powering through the lasers, and it was like the spikes. But I hadn't seen it at the time, so don't come for me, Universal or whoever made this.
Okay, so I guess just to wrap up, I do want to say that the most exciting part of this movie for me was the credits. These credits are so fucking stacked. So Barry Sonnenfeld, good director. I like him.
What did he do recently? I feel like he did something.
He did. He did do that Kevin Spacey cat movie, 9 Lives.
Oh no.
Which not great on him, but he did do that Netflix Series of Unfortunate Events show, which I liked a lot. I liked him in that. That really uses his style well. But he did that. He did do Wild Wild West.
Nice. Oh, he did Barton Fink. Oh, he's an actor in that.
Yeah. I think he's friends with like the Coens.
Yeah, he's a cinematographer on Miller's Crossing.
Oh yeah, that's what I know, because he started off as the Coens DP.
Raising Arizona, Blood Simple, When Harry Met Sally.
Yeah.
Wow. And he directed RV.
But I like Barry Sonnenfeld, but then director of photography Bill Pope, who also did The Matrix and a bunch of other.
Scott Pilgrim.
Yeah, he's had a bunch of great films. Music by Danny Elfman. Always great. Production designer Bo Welch, who did like all of Tim Burton's stuff, and also directed the Cat in the Hat movie.
Oh my god.
Executive producer Steven Spielberg.
Yeah, I saw Amblin at the beginning.
Mm-hmm. And then makeup effects by Rick Baker, who's a legend in special effects world.
Yeah, wow.
Mm-hmm. So a real stacked crew, and also written by by writer of what was it called? My Wife is Retarded or something. Etan Cohen.
Oh boy. Yeah, that's not us saying it, gang. That's Etan.
That's all him. That's all Cohen.
For some reason, I thought he directed Moonlight. Oh, that's Barry.
No, it's
Jenkins.
Barry Jenkins. Not Barry Sonnenfeld.
I was gonna say, I was like, oh, that's. I was a bit curious.
I would love it if Barry Sonnenfeld comes off of Men in Black 3 and makes Moonlight. But yeah, just to wrap up, Jacob, how did this match your expectations?
I thought it was gonna be bad or just boring, and I really liked it. I had a great time, and I definitely want to check out the first one again now, maybe the second one. I was going to go all the way through because I like to be a completionist when it comes to franchises, but international sounds pretty rough, so...
I mean, maybe you'll like it. I don't know.
But I mean, one of the fun things is the aliens, and if there's only like 2 aliens in it, it's gonna be boring.
I feel you should. I feel like you have to check it out. I just need to know your opinion on it.
Okay, I'll do it. I'm no stranger
you
to
may
bad
like.
movies.
I don't know. You may like Chris Hemsworth and Tessa Thompson in that.
I do like them. But yeah, I thought it was great fun. I had a great time. I love. I know Will Smith has had a run of bad luck recently.
Yeah.
I mean, we don't need to get into the whole thing. I think it was blown out of proportion, but I also don't think you should, hit somebody for almost never. Is violence the answer? I will say, like, if Chris Rock had like started beating the shit out of him, then he could fight back.
Yeah.
But anyway, I still feel bad for him. I think he, immediately felt bad for what he did, and I like seeing him and stuff. I think he's very charming and charismatic. And I like Josh Brolin, which he weirdly seemed young to me in this, and I'm like,
yeah, he's still like I think he's in his 40s in this.
Yeah, I was like, but I believed that he was. I mean, he looked, weathered, but I believed he was a young man.
Yeah, Will Smith says he has that city miles.
Yeah, which I was like, I'm sure he was like 20 in the Goonies,
Yeah.
And then I realized too, it was like either right before this or right after this, he returns with Tommy Lee Jones in No Country for Old Men.
Oh yeah, that was before. That was a couple years before. That's funny.
Yeah. But yeah, I love Josh Brolin. This is neither here nor there. Josh Brolin on Instagram is y'all go down the rabbit hole. He's a curious fellow.
Oh, in what way?
I feel like his wife is like 30 years younger than him. Like he's always like, I think this was during like Deadpool 2 times is when I started following him because I really like Deadpool 2. And so he posts pictures of like his like beautiful blonde wife doing yoga in the morning, and he's like, I'm a lucky man. And then like there was I'm pretty sure there was something of him like sunbathing or like doing yoga naked and getting like horribly sunburned.
That's so funny.
Just living his best life.
Good for him. Good for him, honestly.
She's probably not that much younger than him, but she definitely looks a lot younger than him.
But yeah, I'd say this matched my expectations. I don't know. Honestly, I think I expected it to be a little worse. I remember seeing it like back then, thinking it was pretty good. I'm watching it this time. I'd say, yeah, it's good. Like it's if it comes on TV, I'd say it's not a bad watch. I don't know if I need to watch it every day.
Yeah,
but I think it's a good like everything like the movie flows, like it moves pretty fast. It's under 2 hours. It's fun. Yeah, I agree. Like, Will Smith, yeah, definitely is in a very interesting part of his career right now. I'm very curious to see what he does next. I wonder if he's gonna be like, all right, let's go back to Men in Black.
I was just thinking that it might be time for Men in Black 4.
Well, but they do Men in Black 4. Just ignore International.
Well, actually, because of International, I didn't know if it was like a direct sequel or not. Mm-hmm. So at the part where Griffin goes, where there is life, there is always death, or something like that.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my god, is Will Smith gonna have to sacrifice himself to save Tommy Lee Jones? And that's why he's not in International. But no, it turned out okay. It turned out it was his dad who died.
Yeah. It is still like in the same universe, because Emma Thompson shows back up in International as like the head of it.
Oh yeah.
And then Tessa Thompson goes to the British wing of Men in Black, which is run by Liam Neeson.
Of course.
Yeah.
Another alum of the pod.
And it also is funny on like there's some scene in like someone's room that they have like painted murals of like great victories in Men in Black in Men in Black history, and there's a mural of Will Smith and Tommy Lee Jones fighting the giant cockroach at the end of the first movie, which someone said is the exact same thing that happens in like Independence Day Resurgence, where Will Smith isn't in it but they have a painting of him.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that. Man, at least he had the good sense not to be in that movie.
Yeah. And then he was in Suicide Squad.
Oh damn it, you're right. But yeah, I would like to see Men in Black 4. Fuck it. Maybe they could do a cool thing where now he's the Tommy Lee Jones character. Like, if Tommy Lee Jones doesn't want to come back...
Who's his young partner?
It's got to be someone that would be a good foil to him, that he'd be like, I can't believe they stuck me with you.
Josh Gad.
Yeah. Let's see.
Jack Black.
Someone who's young but not too young.
Mm-hmm.
Not Finn Wolfhard or Timothy Chalamet.
Jacob Tremblay.
Yes. Men in Black. It's Kids in Black. He has to find an alien that's infiltrated a kindergarten.
Oh, I love it. Hollywood, you know how to contact us.
Yeah. Or it could be his actual son, and it could be Jaden, and he could be like, I didn't want this for you. Which actually doesn't make any sense because it's only been 10 years since 3.
Yeah. And he has a 20-year-old son.
Yeah. But yeah. No, we know Men in Black always has to be a black person and a white person. So it has to be Jacob Tremblay.
It has to be. Hollywood, you know what to do.
Or it could be my favorite actor who I put in every movie, whose name I'm now forgetting.
The kid from Three Stooges?
The kid from Booksmart. Yeah.
Young Mo.
Yeah. Here, let's find his name real quick, just so he won't be offended when he comes on the pod later.
Yeah. Hey, contact us. Your people call our people.
Yeah. We'll pencil you in.
Yeah. We'll see when we can make it work.
Seriously, you're gonna give me Noah Galvin before you show me who I'm trying to find? I know his last name's like Gisondo. Skylar Gisondo.
Yeah, he's a good actor.
Yeah.
Liked him at Licorice Pizza.
Yeah, me too. Which, have you seen the Haim sisters recently?
No.
This is so
I haven't
unrelated.
got lunch with them in a bit.
Well, guys, why don't you come on the show already?
All of you, we'll make it work.
We always see them getting like our quinoa and our like imitation chicken with them, and they never want to come on the show. Anyway.
Yeah, they were just like, come to Chipotle with
Yeah.
I said, I guess I can.
Yeah, okay. Anything for you, Haim sisters. That's what I call them. I always talk to them as a collective.
And they talk back all together, 3 at once.
They're probably an alien.
Yeah.
They're actually a 3-headed alien. Mm-hmm. All right.
On to the next movie. A similar, $225 million budgeted indie darling released in 4 theaters. The Wes Anderson joint Moonrise Kingdom.
Yes. More like Wes Anderson Joy.
A Wes Anderson Joy. Jacob, what's your history with this little film?
I wasn't really aware of Wes Anderson at this time. I had seen Fantastic Mr. Fox and I really loved it. I saw it the same day I saw The Princess and the Frog, and I think that was my very first double feature in the theaters.
Oh my god.
But because I remember being like, 2 movies in one day? This is crazy. But, give some points to young Jacob. It was because my sister wanted to see Princess and the Frog, and my dad wanted to see Fantastic Mr. Fox. And my mom said, well, Princess and the Frog is right before Fantastic Mr. Fox. Do you want to go see it? And even at the time, a young cinephile, hardly a letterbox to my name, I was like, yeah, there's no such thing as girl movies. I'm going to see Princess and the Frog. And I had a great time.
You were much more mature as a young lad than I was. Girl movie.
Yeah. I did, though, and I still regret it. As a youth, I thought High School Musical was a girl movie, so I never saw it until I was a junior in high school.
Now they play basketball in it, so it's a guy.
That's true, and they have a whole song about how the boys are back or whatever. So yeah, I didn't see this in theaters, but I saw it at my friend George and Thomas's house. I remember laying on their couch watching this, and our friend Javi was also there, who's gotten a shout out before. I mentioned earlier that this is like, of course they had seen this movie in theaters because their parents are from Europe, and their mom is an antiques dealer, so it's like they are Wes Anderson characters. It's
true.
Of course they went to see it at our local Bijou or whatever, wherever we're showing it, Santikos Bijou.
Love the Santikos Bijou.
Love it. Cinema Tuesdays with Nathan from Texas Public Radio. Give me a season pass. I'll shout you out all the time. I think it's free. I don't think anyway. So I saw it then. I really liked it. Then I was like aware of Wes Anderson and was hyped for Grand Budapest, which is also kick-ass. So I think for my money, I really love Fantastic Mr. Fox. I think this might be my favorite Wes Anderson movie. Mm-hmm. It just fills me with joy every time I watch it. Mm-hmm. What's your history with Moonrise Kingdom?
Well, I did not see this in theaters. I definitely did not know who Wes Anderson was. I think I do remember there was a Blockbuster near my house, or like near a grocery store that we went to. And it was one of the, I think I remember seeing a chart, and it was like within the last like 100 blockbusters that existed in the country. But yeah, so I think I remember we rented it from there, me and my mom, because I think I'd heard something about it, that it was good. I was curious. This was like, again, me like starting to get into like more than just like action movies, more than just like superhero movies. Mm-hmm. And I'd contribute this as like a big part of that in terms of like modern cinema. Mm-hmm. But I remember watching it, and it's so funny because I remember just kind of being like, this is really weird for the first half of the movie. And I think it's almost exactly at the halfway point is when they dance on the beach. And there's something about that scene that just everything clicked. And I was like, this is so, like, Joyce, I love this movie. It's great. I love the ending. And then I remember, I knew Wes Anderson after that. I remember watching Grand Budapest Hotel after that and watching a lot more of his movies. Mm-hmm. And then it's so funny because I think one of the only other times I've rewatched this movie was several years later. I think it was right after I finished junior year of high school. And I had some friends that were a year older, but they were graduating. And so they did like a big trip of like, we stayed at like their grandma's condo at the beach. And like it was a group of like 8 of us. Half of us had seen Moonrise Kingdom before, half hadn't. But we put it on, and it was so wonderful because the entire other half, they had the exact same reaction that I did, of being like, what is this? Like, this is so weird. Like, but then exactly at the same point of the beach scene, then they were all like, they were laughing hysterically. Like, they just got it at that scene. So I think that's a very interesting phenomena.
Yeah, that's super interesting. I think the first part of this movie is so funny, and like I think when I watched it, I was in like a comedy mood the first time I watched it, and so like I remember thinking it was hilarious and being like, wow, what a funny and like charming movie. But then like, because I've only probably seen it like 4 times ever, and it's usually pretty spaced out. So I remember watching it this time, and I remember the last time I watched it, I wasn't really paying attention because we put it on in the background. Me and Anthony, who used to live with me and now lives in Oregon. Shout out. But we put it on together because I think we were revising the script for a movie we did together that was that Colin worked on also, The Hunt for Craggy Maw, which I
did feel some similarity to Craggy Maw.
Yeah, definitely in like cinematography we were very inspired by this, so we just had it on in the background, so I wasn't really paying attention. So this time, like fully paying attention to it, I was like, man, there's definitely some like sad undertones in this that I didn't pick up on as a kid.
Yeah.
Like when, especially between Frances McDormand and Bill Murray, which also, it's Frances McDormand tied to Coen Brothers, which are tied to Men in Black 3.
Yes, the Coens that definitely worked on Men in Black 3.
Yeah. But yeah, I think this is just such a great movie because it's got the like Wes Anderson comedy, and it's got some of his more like, not cynical, but I feel like his characters always have like kind of they're always having like a midlife crisis. Yeah. And so it has that still, but because it's like about these kids, and it's like his only movie that's about kids besides Isle of Dogs, which is mostly about dogs.
Yeah. It has a boy in it.
But there's a boy in it. But like I think because it's about kids and it's about kids falling in love and running away, it's so like romantic in the sense of in the 19th century sense of the word, where it's like, you know, it's about like nature and adventure and like
young love.
Yeah, and there's still hope in the world, and it's kind of like there are moments where those kind of forces butt into each other, where it's like the world weary elders and then the kids who just want to run away. And I think it's so sweet and it's so like charming and funny. It's just a great movie.
Yeah, I agree. This is without a doubt my favorite Wes Anderson movie. It was also my first, so I think I guess well, you had seen Fantastic Mr. Fox, but your first Wes Anderson movie.
First like that, because Fantastic Mr. Fox is based off of something else, and like so first like live action Wes Anderson movie.
Yeah, but it has like a very special place in my heart, and also just like there's something about this movie I always think about with like it's just such a good like summer vibe, just the kind of like adventure in the woods. Like I definitely like I was a Boy Scout, and so I laugh at all of the antics in the camp and like when they all have their weapons that they make.
So that's interesting because to me it's always it feels very autumnal. Because when they're in the woods, it's all like orange and everything, and because also like,
during this time, because I've always thought of this as a summer movie, but watching it this time, I was like, oh yeah, this is kind of a fall movie.
Yeah, and also because I feel like parts of it feel kind of like cold and damp to me, which I associate more with like winter, fall.
Yeah, Wes Anderson seems like a fall bitch.
Yeah. He's definitely a pumpkin spice latte kind of guy.
Oh, I love when the leaves change and I get to put on my coat and my vest.
His corduroy jacket and his brown boots. I cannot imagine. There are some people in this world you cannot imagine wearing shorts or swim trunks.
Yeah, I could never imagine Wes Anderson like at the beach.
Yeah, it was like
he'd be there in a 3-piece suit, like with a little umbrella.
Or he'd be in an old-timey bathing costume with like stripes
you're right.
And the little swim cap.
Yeah, it'd be in the south of France. Yeah.
And you're like, oh, lovely day for a swim.
Lovely day for a dip. But yeah, I love this movie, and I think I was like, does Wes Anderson's style work best like when viewed through this kind of perspective of like a child and through like kind of there's so much kind of magic and like just like their little adventure and the way like even just like seeing like the way all the camp functions and everything. Like I think that there's something to it that I think it kind of feels better placed than something like Royal Tenenbaums, which like Royal Tenenbaums is great, but it also, I guess that one also works because it's like you're seeing the world of these like grown-ups who were like prodigal children and see like how they've grown up with that. But I really like how this one shows like it really conveys the feeling of like we're going on an adventure in the woods.
Yeah, I think so. I would agree with that because like I feel like his style is often called very like storybook or like and I feel like it fits the vibe better when it's these two kids.
Yeah.
And one of them literally is like a fantasy novel fan. So yeah, I really like it. And I also think like it, because it's the 60s and it's this made up place of New Penzance, and it, like I was like thinking about it, I was like, man, the balls to be like, we're on an island with no roads. I was like, he just literally did whatever he wanted to do. Yeah. So I feel like it adds to that, to, you know, you can have everyone be in like colorful costumes and you know, have everyone just run around in the woods. And also, one of my favorite actors of all time, Harvey Keitel, makes an appearance, so it gets points for that. He's one of those actors that I just love when he shows up in things. I'm like, yes, Keitel.
Yeah, I forgot he was in this. It was nice to see.
So our story is about a young khaki scout called Sam Shakusky, who is quote-unquote emotionally disturbed and doesn't get along well with the rest of his troop. So he flies the coop and heads out into the woods. And we learn he's on his way to meet his pen pal, who is a girl named Susie, who is the daughter of Frances McDormand and Bill Murray. And she also runs away. And so it begins this whole manhunt for them as they run off in the woods together. And kind of, I never put it together, but similar to one of my favorite movies, maybe my favorite movie, Hunt for the Wilder People, Taika Waititi, 2016. Yeah, where they're like, especially once, what tipped me off was that later Tilda Swinton playing a character who is only referred to as social services.
I love that joke.
Yeah, comes in, and it's very similar to how in Hunt for the Wilder People he's on the run from Paula, who he often calls child welfare. But yeah, so then
this boy is wanted, dead or alive? Oh, alive.
He should be alive. I've been thinking in that close to that scene, there's a part where she holds up a really crude drawing of Ricky and Uncle Heck, who are the escapees in Hunt for the Wilder People, and I was like, what if I got that tattooed on me? the pin drawing. I think it'd be funny, but I'm like, no one would know what that's from.
But that makes
and
it
would just
funny.
think they just think I have a really
It would just
ugly
be a crude
portrait.
Drawing of Julian Dennison and Sam Neill.
Yeah. Maybe good enough for a Taika Waititi retweet, though. You never know.
You never know.
But anyway, we meet a colorful cast of characters on their adventure. One of the people in charge of the hunt. Really, yeah. One of the people in charge is the island police officer, Bruce Willis, who bold statement, I think this might be his best role. I think he's so good in this.
I don't know about best, because just he's been in so many good movies.
Yeah.
I think especially, I got emotional thinking about that when watching today, because, I mean, since he's now retired, I think a lot of people have been kind of reevaluating and looking back on his whole career, and this year in particular, because he's in this and Looper this same year.
Oh yeah, I love Looper. Oh my god.
Yeah, so this year was just like a real good year for him, and I feel like afterwards he didn't really get anything that was good for him. Or I feel like that's two really good directors he's working with, and I feel like afterwards he's doing like I think then right after that he's in A Good Day to Die Hard and other such movies.
Yeah, man. bald Bruce Willis and Bruce Willis with a little bit of hair are completely different characters.
I know. Bruce
yeah,
Willis
I
with
think,
little glasses.
yeah, I think he's so good in this. And his little outfit is funny.
I love his hat, like the way there's a line
Yeah.
going down the middle that separates island police.
And we learned that he's having an affair with Susie's mom, Frances McDormand. And that's why he goes all the way to their house to ask them about the missing Sam, even though they live on the other side of the island.
Yeah.
But
And so is that, because that's one thing I've never been super clear on. So have they been like sleeping together?
yes,
Frances
I think so.
McDormand and Bruce Willis. I was never sure. I never sure if they just like talked or like were flirting about it.
Oh, interesting. I always thought that they were actually sleeping together. But I guess they never say for sure. It's just because Susie says, "I know what you do with that sad, dumb policeman," and so I assumed it was that they were meeting up. But yeah, it could be just that she goes to him because she can't go to her own husband. Interesting. Much to think about.
Yeah. I don't know. It's hard to imagine. Maybe it's just because like this movie is so like focused on childhood. I don't really imagine sex in it.
True. Yeah.
I feel like with every Wes Anderson movie, it's a given, but just the cast, so stacked.
For real. We've already mentioned
Bruce
Bill Murray.
Willis, Bill Murray, Frances McDormand, Tilda Swinton.
Oh yeah. Ed Norton.
Ed Norton, great Ed Norton role.
Yeah.
I love him.
Also
in
my
this.
favorite Ed Norton role.
Yeah, he's in this, and then is he in French Dispatch? Because I know he was in Budapest and Isle of Dogs.
He's in it for like a second. He
Yeah.
plays the criminal that kidnaps the police's son in part 3.
Good. But yeah, he's great in this. Harvey Keitel.
Who else we got in here?
Couple of Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah.
Near the
Who's
end.
also amazing.
Oh, Bob Balaban.
Oh shit, Rushmore. Oh, that might be my favorite. I love Rushmore. That's not important.
Too bad. You've committed.
And all the people who aren't like super big names still do an amazing job.
Yeah.
Like
and a
Jed,
very young Lucas Hedges.
Yeah, Bob Balaban.
Oh, Bob Balaban's great as kind of
he's amazing.
Semi-narrator.
Yeah, and he looks like a little garden gnome or
He
something.
does.
He's so funny. He's kind of the narrator. He's the first person we see telling the history of New Penzance, and then later shows up actually in the movie.
Yeah.
And so he's not. Yeah.
Yeah, I love the kind of setup at the beginning. It's like, this island is most known for the like Hurricane Maybelline, which will happen in 3 days' time.
Yeah. So he's like kind of omnipotent or omniscient. Yeah, and then he actually shows up in the scene later, which I think is really cool.
Well, I guess he's part of the story, but it's supposed to be like, oh, he's telling it like in the future.
Yeah. But I like that instead of just being a voiceover, they have shots of him explaining stuff.
Yeah.
I think it's
in
really
all these
funny.
different places. It's so funny.
Yeah. It kind of feels like the part in, obviously expanded, but there's a part in Monty Python and the Holy Grail where this old guy is like, now what we have here, and he's explaining the story, and then a knight runs by and cuts his head off.
It does feel like that.
Yeah, he's great. And I also like all the weird little interactions between people, like how there's like an implied kind of flirting between Ed Norton and the woman who's just the operator at the phone. Like they just have like a weird connection.
We start the movie, everyone's kind of doing their day-to-day thing. The scouts led by Ed Norton, who delivers the amazing line of Jiminy Cricket, he's flown the coop. They discover that, what's his name? What's the kid's name? Sam. Yeah, discover that Sam Shedesky has flown the coop. He's escaped. I love that they go to his tent and he has a map on the wall over like a little hole that he's cut out, as if no one would see on the other side the giant hole.
That's one of my favorite tropes, is like the hole behind the poster, and so the fact that it's on a tent wall is so funny.
Yeah, I love that part. And then you kind of just have everyone starting to realize, and then we have our two kids finally coming together in a field. And what I think is interesting is because we see them kind of get together, and then we flash back to a year earlier to see their first meeting.
Yeah,
which I thought was it's very cute.
When all of their scenes together are so sweet. It's when she plays a raven in like a Noah's Flood play.
Yeah.
Which I just realized interesting because all the animals are in pairs except for her. It seems like
interesting.
Because she shows that she's alone. She needs Sam. If I'm gonna be pretentious for a moment, but
I love that scene where she's there like at the dressing room with all the other girls and their bird stuff, and he's like, "What kind of bird are you?" And was like, "Well, I'm a swallow. She's an owl." And then he's like, "No, what bird are you?" Like, it's so cheesy, but it's so cute.
Yeah. I know, that's like the weird thing about this movie is that like the deliveries are not like realistic at all from the kids. They're like very strange, but it works. Like it's like, and it's so good. Like they perfectly cast, perfectly directed. And we also, I think, learn in that flashback that I think so. I think we see them get together, and then that's when we learn that they've been pen pals. Because she gives him her address after the show, and they explain their lives to each other and how we learn that he's an orphan.
And she has a lot of anger issues.
And her mom has a book called How to Cope with a Very Troubled Child, which is funny but also really sad. And then we get a cool montage of them heading out together and doing all kinds of fun nature stuff, which I think it's funny that's like Sam has this urgency about him that he's like, we're on the run, we're gonna camp here by 6 p.m. or whatever. But then at the same time, there's so many parts where they're doing so much unnecessary stuff. Like when he's just like pulling a turtle out of the river for no reason.
And then he like sets up the elaborate contraption to get her luggage across the river.
This movie also does something I really like, which is like little weird running jokes, like that aren't like even super like laugh out loud funny. It's just like something that sticks in your mind. Like when he goes like he's like, we'll take our time because you're not as experienced of a hiker and you're wearing Sunday school shoes. And she's like, they're not really Sunday school shoes. And then later Harvey Keitel goes, we spotted him with a girl in knee-high socks and Sunday school shoes.
I noticed that. But so they go on the run. Everyone was fanning out looking for him, particularly his troop of khaki scouts, which we know that he's not very popular. And so they're all like, I guess it's similar to Hunt for the Wilder People in that they're like, do we need weapons? And everyone's like, no, don't need weapons. And then they all bring weapons. I love the kid who has the big stick that just has nails sticking out of it.
It's such a good cut, like cut to all the weapons, and it's playing this happy music as they walk along. It's so funny. And then later, Bruce Willis has the stick again with the nails.
We're not going anywhere.
When he's keeping social services from. That's another thing very similar that there's no more foster homes. That he's gonna go to a institution, just like Ricky and Hunt for the Wilder People.
Yeah.
Mickey. He says, there's no more homes, just juvie. And Hex says, what's juvie? Juvenile prison?
A lot of similarities between Sam Neill's character in that and Bruce Willis in this.
Yeah, that's one of my favorite, and I know my bastard roommate, just kidding. I love Blake to death. I'm just joking. But he always gives me a hard time about stuff like I was gonna say I love the dynamic of like old curmudgeon and young like romantic, and then he'd say some shit like, "Oh, you just love old men and little kids," and I'm like, it's not like that. It's because I still have wonder in my heart. Eventually they get caught at the titular Moonrise Kingdom, which is what they named the beach that they end up on. And that's another thing. I'm gonna put people on blast for a moment. As these episodes go on, I get more and more militant. But,
go on.
But I feel like people always, when they talk about this movie, they are like, "Oh, there's that creepy scene at the beach where they kiss," and I'm like, I feel like it's only creepy if you're like
Yeah.
thinking about it like that. Like I feel like if you think about it, it's like they're innocent kids, and it's like I think it's just funny and awkward and sweet.
Yeah,
I don't think
love
it's
that
weird.
scene. As I
Yeah.
said, like that's the scene that I feel like the movie really clicks of just like
Yeah.
I feel like we've all had that kind of awkward feeling of like, oh, I guess we kiss or just like
Yeah.
because I mean I feel like at that point they're like almost kind of pretending to be adults.
Yeah, for real.
Mm-hmm. There is a creepy line that I think could be misinterpreted as because they French kiss and then she says it feels hard, and
Yeah.
when I was kind of zoning out for a second and I pop again and said what. But
Yeah.
she was referring to his tongue because they were awkward French kissing.
Well, I don't know. I think she might mean what it sounds like, but I'm like that's still like I don't know. Maybe I'm just a new age, bohemian idiot. But I'm like whatever. Get over it. Like they're like I'm like I don't know. I'm just like puberty's part of life. It's weird. It's not supposed to be like sex scene. It's like it's little kids. It's like
the comedy of it is that
out.
it's these kids doing this.
Yeah, so I don't know. I think when people are like, "This is weird," it's like maybe you should look within.
Yeah.
But
yeah, because I love that idea of just like, oh, I'm gonna run away with my childhood crush and live on a beach, and I'll make her earrings out of fish hooks. I hate. Oh god, the freaking fish hook earrings.
Yeah, that's another really good cut. Is when he's like, "Are your ears pierced?" And then it cuts and he's like putting the fish hook in her ear and she's
crying
like, ah!
and there's blood all down her ear.
And then she looks at it and she goes, "Do the other one." It's so funny.
I was curious, what do you think? You kind of mentioned it, but what do you think of the two kids? Like, what do you think of their acting in kind of the beginning, the first half?
I think it's perfect for this. Like, I think like it's if you saw it in a movie where everyone was like, more grounded, it would feel weird. Everyone and everything was more grounded. It would be like, why are they acting like this? But because it's a Wes Anderson movie where everything is so like picturesque and everything's shot funny and everything looks funny and all and even the adult actors are still speaking with this kind of like
that's
cadence.
Very specific cadence.
Yeah, so I feel like it's fine. Like I feel like it's almost more authentic because they're probably like especially Sam, I feel like it's like tripping over his words and stuff, so it feels a little more like there's more of the kids showing through than with the older actors. More of their selves.
I did feel like with the first half I found their acting a little stilted. I wonder if the movie was shot in order, just because I feel like they get a lot better as the movie goes along. Like by the time we get to the beach, I feel like they're a lot stronger. That it's like the one complaint I'd have on this watch was just like there was some times it felt like the kids were struggling a little bit with the Wes Anderson dialogue, and it didn't really feel like they're like kids are not as well formed with it. It feels like I could see the actors underneath, like, having these, like, giant paragraphs to memorize.
Yeah. I don't know. I guess I like, even with the other Khaki Scouts, I like how it feels a little odd.
Yeah.
Like, one of my favorite lines, I don't even know if it's supposed to be funny, but I think it's so weird, is when the Khaki Scouts decide to help. Well, okay, so before I get there, I'll say...
Well, they get caught. They get caught by the cops and by the parents and everything.
And
I love because they hear them coming in. They unzip their tent. They look out. They see them all standing there, and then they zip it back up. Yeah. And Bill Murray just picks the tent up.
It's so funny. And so they get captured. They're riding back in a boat, and then pretty consecutively are like two of my favorite scenes, like emotionally. One is when Ed Norton, because also Sam has put in has tendered his resignation from the Khaki Scouts, and Ed Norton's like, "That's one of the best campsites I ever saw. I give you a commendable." He's like, "I wish we had time to do an inspection," and he's like, "You really don't want to be a Khaki Scout?" And I think it's so sweet because it's like, Sam is the true cat. I mean, the other kids too, but he's like, he really loves it, but he's quitting because the other kids don't like him. And And then my favorite scene in the whole movie is while he's waiting for social services to show up, he stays with Bruce Willis, and they have this like man-to-man bachelor pad scene that is so sweet because he's explaining like why he ran away and like how he loves this girl. And Bruce Willis has my favorite line in the whole movie. He says, "That's very eloquent." And he says, "I can't argue with anything you're saying, but then again, I don't have to because you're 12 years old."
And that's the whole point of the movie. It feels so apparent of like these kids, like their feelings, like they're not invalid. Like, you know, I think, you know, your first love is always going to be like the most intense and passionate. And especially at a point in both their lives where it's like nothing, like they're not thinking super far ahead. But it's like, nope, I love her. We're going to run off into the woods and live together forever.
Yeah. We're going to get married by a Boy Scout.
Yeah.
And they, you know, it's like they can't control anything in their lives, but they can, if they run away, they can control that.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then that's when the part that I like, that I don't know if it's supposed to be funny or not, if it's just weird kid acting, is when the khaki scouts decide to save them. And his nemesis, Lucas Hedges, is at Fort Lebanon getting patched up because Susie stabbed him in the back with lefty scissors. So all the other kids are there, and one of them's like, "We've been downright mean to Fieldmate Shakusky," and he says, "In fact, we've been a bunch of mean jerks." And then, but he's looking at them, and he's like, you know, "Are we gonna help them or what?" And the camera pans between all the kids as he says their names, and he's like, "Nickleby, DeLuca." And then it goes to this kid with like orange shades, and he's like, "Gadge." And I think it's so funny that one, his name is Gadge, and two, there's like this silent reverence for Gadge. I think he's so funny.
Yeah. I do love about Wes Anderson how it's like every word, every side character they have this like history about them.
Yeah, and there's also a kid named Lazy Eye who just has a patch on him. It's so funny. So yeah, then they break Susie out of her house and put a papier-mâché dummy in her bed.
I love that. Was never gonna fool anyone.
I know. It looks like Lady Gaga. But they took the time to
put it in.
It looks like Miss Gaga with those big eyes and blue eyeshadow. But
it's funny because I feel like I kept like a good amount of notes while watching the movie up until like the beach scene, and then after the beach scene I basically have nothing, and I just wrote, "God, movies are great."
Yeah. No, yeah, my last note is "lovely, I say!" exclamation point. And I have like for this one I only have like a page and a little bit of change, and for Men in Black I had like 3 pages of notes. Yeah, I think the whole second half of this movie is just so delightful. Like they break Sam out of the policeman's house. Is that when I think they get married after that? They go to Fort Lebanon.
Yeah, they get it. They go to see one of the khaki scouts. They said they have a cousin that's at Fort Lebanon, which is a massive khaki scout fort. I was a little confused on why there's at least 2 different ones on this island that's not very big.
Yeah. That's a good point. Well, I think they have to take a boat to Fort Lebanon, so maybe it's on the mainland.
I don't think it's on the mainland because it's still in the same deal where the chapel is.
Yeah, and where the hurricane hits.
But yeah, I like the idea. I do like the idea that like Edward Norton's deal is at it's just at like a small little outpost with 1 troop, but then there's Harvey Keitel with this massive outpost.
That just reminded me of one of my favorite lines when one of my favorite moments. Harvey Keitel's getting all the troops together because the hurricane is hitting and he's gonna evacuate them. But Ed Norton's whole troop is missing because they're running across the moors, and then Ed Norton runs up out of the mist by himself, and Harvey Keitel's like, "Who is that?" And then the smash zooms in on him running up, and he's like,
I love that shot.
He goes, it's one of my favorite lines. He's like, "Where's your damn troop, you son of a bitch?" He's so intense. And then Ed Norton gets a chance to be a good leader because Harvey Keitel's captain quarters get blown up by firecrackers, and he saves him, and then he leads the whole battalion of khaki scouts to safety.
Yeah. We also need to mention, so they go to the fort and they meet Jason Schwartzman.
Yeah.
Fully grown Jason Schwartzman, who then they go to him because he has like a way to free them, like he can get them on a boat that'll get them out of there. But then they also want to get married, the two kids. And so it's like I am ordained, but I need to let you know that this will not be legal. Like, you have not received parental authority for this, but it'll have great sentimental value.
Yeah. And it's like Braveheart. They get married in secret.
Mm-hmm.
And then they do the classic Wes Anderson walking in slow-mo moment. And then they get on the vessel that'll take them to I think they're going to work as, like, shrimpers.
Yeah. I have a friend that owes me an IOU on a shrimp boat. You could work as a clawer.
Yeah. He's like, it's hard work, but it's a hell of a lot better than shock therapy. So they're going to do that, but then they come back because she forgot her binoculars.
And then they run into Lucas Hedges, who's there at the infirmary.
And then I'm a little... How do we get from there to the church at the end?
Well, so then Lucas Hedges alerts everyone that they're there, which leads to a big chase scene.
Right.
The entire camp chasing Sam, and I love the huge wide shot of the field, and you see him running and them all chasing after, and they're all like following in a perfect circle. But Sam grabs like a pole and like stands his ground, and gets zapped by lightning. But then he reunites with everyone else, and they start running, and then the big hurricane starts, and then we get to the church.
Yeah, which is where I guess they do this play every year because the Noah's Flood play is still happening, which topical. Now there's a real flood.
Yeah.
And all of our characters amass at the church. The hunt has led here.
Mm-hmm.
And Susie and Sam are like, we're going to run for it. So they climb up to the steeple, and they're going to jump into the river and swim for it. But, like, we can tell this is definitely suicide. Yeah. And so then Bruce Willis is climbing up to them, trying to save them. And while he's going, he's on the walkie-talkie with Frances McDormand and Bill Murray, who are lawyers, and also social services, trying to convince them that he'd be a good... custodian guardian for Sam.
Yeah, I love. Oh god, that scene is so nice. I think it was thinking about Bruce Willis, like at the moment when he catches up with the kids and like tells them like, so what do you say? Hey, like, I want me to be your guardian, and like, he looks to Susie, and Susie like nods. Because I think, they're standing on the top of, like, the church steeple looking at, like, the water below. Oh, and I love the image of, because then they show, like, it's, like, starting to flood, but it's still over a graveyard directly next to the church. I never
noticed that.
But so it's basically saying, like, okay, we'll jump to our death. They'll never catch us. But then just, like, that realization of, like, I'd much prefer not dying.
Yeah. And also, I love, before they jump, they kiss, which gives Bruce Willis enough time to catch up. Mm-hmm. But... there's like lightning that goes between their lips, and which I thought was like, it's so weird, and it's like a fantasy element almost, but I think it's so charming.
But the moment when Bruce Willis is just saying that to him, like, it honestly made me tear up. I think it's just so sweet and so happy for these characters.
Lightning strikes the steeple and they all fall, but luckily
Bruce
Willis has a rope tied around his waist.
Yeah, they have that great reveal of like they show like inside the church and you hear a zap and like a big crash, and then you show like Frances McDormand and them like looking in horror, and then you show the destroyed steeple, and then the shadowy outline of them hanging on. Yeah,
which is so funny. It literally looks like, and I mean, it might be knowing Wes Anderson, but it looks like Fantastic Mr. Fox, or like their little models or something hanging there. And then Bruce Willis references Lord of the Rings and says, "Don't you let go."
It's always got to come back.
And then it cuts. Everyone's lived happily ever after. And now Sam is no longer a khaki scout, which is unfortunate. But he has a little matching island police uniform.
Yeah. It's so cute. I love this movie so much.
This movie's wonderful.
It is. It's simply delightful.
Yes.
I was curious. I did kind of feel like at the end, like when all the flood stuff was happening, it's like this feels kind of Tim Burton-esque. I think maybe just in some of a lot of the lightning and a lot of like the shadow, like stop motion stuff feels similar to his stuff. But I never really associated Wes Anderson and Tim Burton until this.
Yeah. Same with like Taika Waititi with Hunt for the Wilder People. It's like I never really associated them. I know people said so with Jojo Rabbit because it has that kind of look to it. But
especially the beginning of Jojo Rabbit feels very similar to Moonrise Kingdom.
Yeah,
with, like,
they're
the
all in
camp.
little uniforms. Yeah. Except they're Nazis.
Oh. I love this movie. I love it so much. I honestly.
Oh, this is something. Oh, go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna say like I could watch this movie every day.
Yeah, it's so good. Happy. It kind of. I think it's like. Oh wait, I need to add this to my Letterboxd list of movies where fellas are in the woods because it's one of my favorite subgenres. Is I just love any movie where someone goes, and that's why I love to hike. Mm-hmm. I love the last two out of the 3 short films I've made in college take place out in the wilderness. I just love it feels like an adventure. So I love any movie where people are on a trek like this.
Yeah, it's so great. I love this movie so much. And then I think I do it because when we have that like flash forward at the end to like the happily ever after, it still has this like really interesting kind of theme that I think is expanded on a lot more in Grand Budapest Hotel. Like the idea of like things not lasting or like the kind of like idea of beauty fading. Like I think that's really apparent in like Grand Budapest when you see like the hotel now in comparison to like when it was before. And I think especially with the idea that the beach, the Moonrise Kingdom that they had was like wiped out by the hurricane and is completely gone. I think that's such a like hauntingly beautiful idea of like, oh, we had this place, we can never go back, but we'll always have it in us.
So beautiful. And then that last shot of so we see, because we forgot to mention Sam is a painter as well, and he's in the last part where he's in the police uniform, he's painting a picture of the beach where they were, and you can see that he wrote in rocks on the beach Moonrise Kingdom, and then it cuts to an actual shot of the beach with the rocks spelling Moonrise Kingdom, and it's such a beautiful like final shot. And I noticed it was dedicated to someone, but I couldn't.
I think it said Truman or someone. I don't know. But I love that shot at the end where you see it like actually saying it, and that shot only holds for a few seconds and then just very abruptly vanishes. Just the same idea of like it's there and then it's gone. Yeah.
I also love like, I mean, obviously Wes Anderson, all of his aesthetic is so like particular and pretty, but with this, with like all the cursive font and like how at the beginning it has everyone's character name and their actor name. I feel like it's just very nice. And then it says all the actors, and then it says in, and then Moonrise Kingdom, and it flashes like 3 colors with the lightning. And I was like, this is such a good like title drop. And it's that beautiful shot. It starts really close on Susie with the binoculars and pulls out like a mile. And shows the whole house. It's so cool.
Oh God, this movie's so good. I love this movie. I feel like I could talk about this movie for hours. I could watch it every single day. But yeah, Jacob, expectations. This one, how does it match up?
I knew this movie banged, and it still did.
Amen.
I knew it was awesome,
sister.
And I feel like though I put it on. Actually, I put it on right after RRR. So it was like 11 p.m. when I started it. But it still like brought me right back in. I was like, this movie's so great. What about you, Colin?
I would say, I feel like I watched this movie a lot more than I actually do. I haven't seen this movie since 2017, and like I just came back and I was like, oh, I love it so much. I love it so much. I think I even liked it a little more this time. Like I felt a lot more of the emotion, and I had forgotten even that like both the kids are like troubled and like have that additional struggle in it. But yeah, I think about this movie a lot. I love it. It's easily what I think of when I think of Wes Anderson.
Same, yeah.
Go watch it.
Go watch Moonrise Kingdom. It's on HBO Max.
It is. I watched it on my Criterion edition, which I think was also like the first Criterion I ever bought. So I was like, this is a movie I want the best version of.
It's one of those ones that I kind of wish I had the Criterion of, but I already have just like a normal Blu-ray, so I would feel I'd have to like sell it or something to justify getting the Criterion.
I had a DVD of it, and I said, you know what, I can upgrade.
Yeah. Or maybe I'll leave that one with my parents and get myself the Criterion. But yeah, this movie's wonderful. Last thing I'll say, it reminded me when Bill Murray is shirtless and he says, "I'm gonna go find a tree to chop down."
Yeah.
And pick the axe.
I love that part.
I could have sworn my mom told me there was a dead tree in our yard that needed to be cleared, and I was like, "This is a great summer project for me. I'm gonna go be shirtless and chop a tree down."
How'd that go?
And then when I came back home last weekend, and I was like looking at our gardening implements and was like, I might need a bigger axe. And my mom was like, "You don't need to cut that tree down. That tree's alive." And I was like, foiled again.
Foiled for me having summer adventures.
I'll never get to live out my lumberjack fantasy.
But all right, I think that does it for today. And I gotta look at the schedule. What is even next? Oh boy.
What's next week?
Oh boy. Oh wait. I think we may need to have a talk after this, because there's only one wide release movie. Oh wait, actually I know what we're doing. I know what movies we're doing. So next week, June 1st, 2012, a little movie called Snow White and the Huntsman.
Oh boy.
And then there's a movie that is limited release, but I think we gotta talk about. It's a little film called Piranha 3 Double D.
Nice. I want to say maybe I've seen this, but I can't remember. We'll know once I start watching it.
Yes. So you down for those two, Jacob? You ready
Absolutely.
to flashback to those?
I'm always down. We gotta get our time jump machine and jump off the top of my apartment building.
It's true. All right. Jacob, where can the good people find you?
You can find me at Jacob Sanger on Twitter, Sanger spelled Saenger. I'm also at Jacob Sanger on Letterboxd, and at Commander in Beef with underscore in between the words on Instagram. What about you, Colin?
And you can find me at Letterboxd at CJS Films, and you can find me on Twitter at C Spalton. And then,
very nice.
Thank you, Jacob. I think this was a good episode. Pretty good week, I'd say. Good week, Eddie.
I think this was a great week. I loved both of these movies.
But yeah, thank you all for listening. Special thanks to Sheldon Scholl for our epic theme music. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Feature Flashback. Yeah, thank you for listening.
Yeah.
We'll see you next week.
Tell your friends.
Tell your friends. Tell all your friends. Tell your family. Tell your friends. Tell people you don't know. Tell people that sit next to you randomly in a movie.
Yeah. Tell people on
call
public
back.
transit.
Call back. Thank you for listening. Good night.